Hello, and welcome to my workshop. Today I'm going to build an extra large brake drum forge. I don't have any kind of fancy name for this shop. It's actually just a one-car garage. As you can see, it's quite overstuffed, but there is some order to it. And that's one of the first things I want to mention is that even though you might not have a lot of room, try to keep things organized, because one of the most frustrating things about being a hobbyist is you're short on time, you get out, you can't find your tools, your materials, and all that stuff, and it'll just drive you crazy. So try to keep things clean. I know it's a drag when you have limited time, and the first thing you got to do is spend an hour sweeping out your shop, but trust me, it is worth it. What I'm going to do is use this old motorcycle service card. It's a leftover from my motorcycle business. Actually, it's just a service card. It can be for anything, but it is made out of metal, so it's going to make a really good frame for our forge. So just stick with me, and I'm going to get out the parts and show you how it all goes together. This is going to be the second forge I've built, but it's going to be larger than the first one. So I'm hoping what to be able to do with this is not only just forge metal, I'm going to do some casting and foundry type work, so it's got to be a little bit bigger than your standard brake drum forge. Without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, here are the parts we're going to use to build this forge. There's several types of forges you could potentially build. There's gas, which is propane compressed gas. There's coal. There's electric. I've even seen a magnetic forge. We're going to be building a basic coal brake drum forge, and the reason for that is coal is very cheap, it's very simple to build, and it's fairly safe as opposed to compressed gas. Although, don't get me wrong, those forges are perfectly safe when set up just right, but I just like the coal a little better. So here is our first piece. Now, in a coal forge, there are basically like four main pieces. There's the fire pot, the frame itself, the pipe work that's going to deliver the air, and then the blower. What we have here is a very large brake drum. This is from a Ford F350 dually. As I said before, for this forge I want it big enough to do some foundry work, so I'm going large on this. Next, I have this little stainless steel bowl, and the reason for that is these pipes, which are 2-inch cast iron pipes. When you put them in here, you notice it's kind of small, so what I'm hoping to do is I'm going to use this as sort of a funnel on top of the pipe when it's all put together, so you have to bear with me. But as you can see, it's a pretty good fit. I got this from the Goodwill, which is a great place to find all manner of things to repurpose for very cheap. I actually got a set of 3 of these for, I think it was $2 or $3. We have a grate. This is basically just 2 plates of steel that I spent a lot of time drilling all these little holes, quite tedious, and then MIG welded it together once I was done. As you can see, this piece was the second one. The holes are a little further apart. I started getting tired of it and subconsciously started making the holes further apart. It's already set to go in there. So that's one piece I pre-made before I started this video. Besides, I'm sure you don't want to see me stand here and drill 200 holes. Here's our piping. This is a 2-inch cast iron pipe. And one thing I didn't like about this stuff is it's kind of expensive, actually, and I hate spending so much money on just tubes, but I couldn't find a T for an automotive tube, and I do have automotive tubing laying around. I just don't have a T, I don't have a cap, but this can add up quite quickly. There's $5, $12, these are about $5 or $6 a piece. For me, we're going to be using this cutter to cut a hole in the cart. So we need a anvil grinder. There's a lot of ways you could cut it, but I use the anvil grinder, some cutoff wheels, grinding stones, and possibly even the sanding if I need to dress things up. And finally, of course, safety gear. I take safety very seriously. You definitely do not want to be running an anvil grinder, especially in a tight garage like this without ear protection. It'll kill your ears. Face shield, of course, we'd like to see into the future. I should have a pair of gloves too. I don't know where they are at the moment. I'll try to find them. Like I said, I take it very seriously. I've gotten an angle grinder to the face before because it caught a string that fell out of my coat. Luckily I had a face shield on, so it just bounced off. Otherwise I'd probably be in the hospital, maybe one-eyed or missing some teeth. So it's, you know, something. It's definitely worth the time and the money. Okay, so let's start assembly. Okay, now I've just put these pipes together hand tight. This is our basic T. The blower is going to go in this end right here, and this will be the feed to the fire pot up here. The reason for this cap is once it's mounted, it will be like this. Inevitably, you're going to get some ash, clinkers, things of that nature down into the pipe. So this cap here will be your way of taking it off and cleaning it out. One thing I want to mention too that I probably should have by now is that when you buy this pipe, make sure that it is black iron or steel. Do not get galvanized. It puts off a toxic fume when it's burned. The tube doesn't usually get that hot, but just be safe. One other thing I want to mention too is that on this drum, you notice that you have these big cutouts that I made before. The reason for that is once I get to the point of forging, use this for example, I want to be able to way to put it in there and have it just stay in there, be stable, or maybe I could suspend something. It just gives me more options. I cut this out with the angle grinder and a cutoff wheel. Nothing special there. Oh, and here's my old friend. This is a 55 or maybe 65 pound, I don't remember, Vulcan Anvil. It's a pretty good quality. It's sort of middle of the road. The pros don't like them because, of course, they want a lot of rebound. I think it has quite good rebound. Maybe I'm just lucky. It's cast iron with a steel top. For a beginner or for doing some bladesmithing, this is plenty enough. The pros like the big giant 200-pounders. They cost a lot of money. I got this guy off of eBay years ago, and it's worked pretty well. So no complaints. Anyway, back to the forge. What I've done here is scribed a circle around this bolt, and it's kind of probably hard to see on the camera. It's there though. What I'm going to do is cut this hole out just slightly smaller than this circle, and then the bowl will sit down in there, and that'll basically be, I guess you'll call it an expansion chamber. I really don't know. And then I'll cut a hole in the center, and the pipe will come up in between. Brake drum will sit on top of the cart, and hopefully it'll work. So let's move on. Okay, here is the hole. It's been cleaned up just a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect, of course. I went around it with the sander and a file to deburr it. That way, messing around with it later, I don't slice my hand into ribbons. Bowl fits in perfectly, and just kind of gives you an idea where we're going with this. So now we have this nice little expansion chamber, and then the grate will fit in like so. All I have to do now to finish this piece is I have to cut a hole in the bottom of the stainless steel bowl, about the size of the pipe. Well, actually we want it to be as close as possible to make a good seal. It doesn't have to be perfect. Air tends to flow over the path of least resistance, but if you have too much of a leak, of course you'll start losing pressure. So that'll be the next step, is to cut the bowl. Oh, one thing else I want to mention, if I can spit it out, is this is a stainless steel bowl, and that's really what you want. You could probably find an aluminum bowl, but they have a lower melting point than stainless steel. There will be some heat that's going to soak down through here, through the grate, and get into that. So try to get stainless, don't go with aluminum. Okay, now what I've done here is just took the pipe, put it on the bowl, and used the Sharpie to make a circle. This will be my cutout. I'm going to use the angle grinder to get the rough hole started. One little trick I want to mention when you have an angle grinder, when your wheels, your cutoff wheels, get worn down, don't just throw them out. This is a new one, as you can see. It's much larger. Save them when they start getting small, because they come in handy in times like this where you have to cut out a small hole. Now you don't want to get it all the way down to the center because well, it's unsafe, but when we're getting around in here, don't just toss them in the trash. You might find you need it at a later point. Alright, it's time to cut the hole. Okay, small problem. This bowl is so thin that my cutter is cutting it so fast I actually can't control it very well. As soon as it bites, it digs right in, and it threatens to make the hole too big. So what I've done is I've went ahead and used the grinding stone that is, and sort of hogged it out. Pretty ugly. So what I'm going to do now is mount this in the bench vise and use a good old-fashioned file to finish it off. The metal is pretty much paper thin. It just needs to be cleaned up. So that's what's next. Okay, after a lot of time with the file, which has been the longest part of this whole process, I've got the hole pretty close. Close enough that I was able to get the pipe started. Not perfectly, but enough that I could sort of finish it off with the adjusting hammer, as we like to call it. So anyway, got a good fit. I'm going to throw this in here and kind of see where we're going. Now we just have to hook up the rest of the pipes. I'm going to have to come up with some little way to hang the pipes and the blower, which is most likely going to be a hair dryer, which should be enough. If not, I can always upgrade it to like a squirrel cage or something like that. So let's get the pipes together and see where we're at. Okay, here is our, I guess you would say, first assembly. I just have the pipes hanging from the bowl, but it gives you an idea of where I'm going with this. What I want to do eventually is right here we'll have the blower. If it's a hair dryer, it could be mounted over here, and basically everything will be contained within the frame, nice and neat. I'm going to put some way to support this pipe because there's actually a lot of weight just hanging from that where it's been threaded through, and that bowl was very thin, so I think it's going to need a little help in the long run, or else I could see the whole pipe just popping out and falling. So I'm going to come up with some way to run a strap or something up to the surface of the cart, and that should make it plenty strong. And very happy with where we are right now. The only thing I think I want to change is I noticed that these big holes around the edges are kind of exposed. Now I can see stuff falling in there. Probably not a big deal, but maybe I'll see if I can find some small bolts or something to plug these up, or something, maybe some brass bushings, who knows. But it's probably fine as is. One other thing I might also do is, because this is such a big brake drum, I may line the outside with some refractory clay, if I can spit it out. That will increase its efficiency. The only problem is refractory clay is not something you can just buy off the shelf around here. I could use fire brick mortar, but it's only good to about 2,000 degrees. That might be good enough, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll give it a try. If it breaks and flakes off, I can just sort of replace it, of course. But it's pretty good progress so far. Next step is to source a blower, and like I said, attach those hanging pipes to give them a little more strength. But looking good so far. And I'd like to mention too, at this point, I've only got, I want to say about an hour and a half in this whole construction, and you know, I would say about 20 to 30 minutes of that time was just fashioning that little hole in the bottom of the bowl. If you were using a smaller brake drum, you wouldn't have to do that. You could just mount it right on the end of the pipe and call it a day. But like I said, we're going large with this. So, all right, so onward. Okay, so here's where we are now. After checking the local Goodwills, I could not find a used hairdryer, so I went ahead and just went to Wiley World and bought one. It's only $10. It should do the job. If not, I can upgrade it later. One downside of this particular blower that I did not notice when I bought it is that it has no cold mode. It only has this cool shot button. So it only blows hot air is the bottom line. That's not actually good for your wallet. The hot air doesn't do anything in a forge, of course. So it's better to run it cold to save on the power bill. So two things I could possibly do is sort of tape the cold shot button down. All it really probably does is stop the coil inside from heating up. Or I could crack it open and just take the coil out, which is what I'm probably going to do. Unless it's too complicated, then I'll just come back and tape the button down. Now normally what I would do with this is duct tape it, or maybe use a coupler like this one that I got from the hardware store to affix it to the pipe. It fits in real well on this end, but it would need to be pushed on pretty hard on that end onto the blower. But it turns out that the fitment on this blower is very good. I was surprised. In fact, I think that I could just tap this together and it would be good enough. It's so good. If not, I could always go ahead and duct tape it around and around. In the words of Jorge Cervantes, duct tape solves all your problems. I'm going to try it just sort of tapped in very lightly with the mallet and see if it seals well and stays there, and if not, then out comes the tape. Now, the next thing is the pipe under the forge is pretty heavy, and right now it's only being held by that stainless steel, can't get it with one hand, the stainless steel bolt in there where it's threaded through, but that bowl is actually pretty flimsy. So I'm thinking that with the blower and the weight of the pipe and moving the forge around, it's probably going to end up popping out sooner or later. So what I'm going to do is try and hang the pipe from the cart itself to take some weight off of it. I found that this old automotive exhaust hanger is almost the exact right size. It's just a hair too small, but I think I can open it up a little bit, just put it in the vise and bend it out. And then I found in my junk box this old adjuster. What I can do then, and I found out even better, I'll show you right here, is that it happens to fit perfectly. I'm trying to do this one-handed, so I apologize. Happens to fit perfectly, so I can attach this and then hang it somehow from the bottom of the cart. And to make the other one hook, that is, I could buy one from the store, but I have this old mild round stock. I can just make a quick hook, drill a hole in the floor of the cart, run it through, and maybe tack weld it on. I like to reuse stuff that I have laying around just to save a buck or two. And there's also time. You know, if I have to stop every time I needed something small like a hook and run to the hardware store, I'd never get anything done. Of course, you have to use your brain. If you do that for everything, you'll be spending all your time fabricating things. So it's always a time versus money argument. Anyhow, let me get all this stuff together and then we'll see what we got. Okay, here's a little incremental update. It's only been about 10 or 15 minutes since my last one. What I've done is I popped open this hair dryer and I found out that pretty much what I thought was correct. The cold shot button basically cuts the power to the heating element inside this. So what I did was just cut the wire coming out of this button. Now it blows only cold air, which is fine. That'll save me a few bucks. I've went ahead and opened up the exhaust clamp a little bit. It fits perfectly now. And I can slap it up and down. It's good support. Wasn't too shocked to find out that after I opened it up a little bit, the bolts wouldn't line up quite perfectly, so I just cut a notch out of the end here, so it'll still, this is upside down, but you get the picture. It'll still fit together. And we'll add a washer to it on this side to make sure it has plenty of clamp force. I mean, we're not building a Swiss timepiece here. Close enough will do in this regard. I've taken the round stock and bent it into a nice hook. Got it attached to the adjuster just for, make sure I can get it together. I tried pulling it apart. I mean, not crazy, but I tried pulling it apart just a little bit to make sure there's enough strength there. There's plenty. Now all I have to do is drill a hole in the cart, put it in, and find out about where it's going to be, and then I'll just tack it with a quick shot of my MIG welder, and it should be good to go. And after that, I think that's it. So let's get that done. Okay, here is the final result at last. I'm really excited about the way this turned out. As you can see, it's all assembled. I got the grate in place. One slight change I did was put some bolts in to cover up the big bolt holes in the brake drum. Just I didn't like the idea of the big holes being there where stuff could fall in and possibly reduce the airflow coming out. Under here, I've got the pipe hooked up, as I said, with the exhaust clamp, and a hanger that I ran up to the top and then just MIG welded real quick into the top, sort of like a real quick and dirty plug weld. I've got the blower just jammed in the pipe. I tapped it very lightly with my mallet. It seals real good. I'm happy with that. I have it positioned so I can get to the control easily. And finally, I just like the way that with this cart I have some room to put some tools over here. I have a handle I can hang stuff from. The sides of this cart are very sturdy, so if I wanted to, I could install some hooks along the edge and hang some more tools from it. And of course it has a tray below. I can put some stuff in there. So the only thing left to do is try it out. The only question I have in my mind is I hope that that little hair dryer will provide enough airflow. If not, I can certainly upgrade it later. In the end, I would say I got $10 in the dryer. I had the cart. Brake drum was a few bucks. The grate was scrap steel. Probably the most expensive piece was that iron tubing. I've got probably about $20 in that. So what we have here basically is a complete forge for less than $50. Not bad, if I say so myself. The only thing left to do is try this thing out and see how it works. Oh, one last thing I almost forgot to mention. This didn't work out. I would have liked to put it on. It's kind of cool. It would have allowed me to tighten it up, make those nice adjustments. What ended up happening was when I tried to work it into the exhaust hanger, the thickness of the eyelet made it so that I couldn't get the nuts started on the exhaust clamp. So what I ended up doing was just make a hanger out of the mild steel rod. I propped it up some with some blocks to make sure it was taking the weight off, and then welded it into place. So a little footnote there. Thanks for watching. Wait, you didn't think that I was not going to fire it up, did you? Got some nice coal here from down the street, very close by, actually just a few miles in here. There's a supplier. Man, check out these giant nugs. Anyway, I'm gonna have to break them down just a bit, and then we'll throw them in and see if I can get it started. I will confess, building fire is something I've always sucked at, so I'm gonna have to get some newspaper, break this stuff down, and see what happens. Okay, so here we have ignition using some paper, some wood pellets that I had laying around, and just a little bit of coal. I didn't have any good newspaper to use, so I'm using crappy white printer paper, which is a terrible choice. I've already managed to set the fire alarm in my house because I had the door open, so I closed that. So let's see how it goes. Alright, here it is, running under the low setting on my blower. I was going to say hair dryer, but it's a blower now. You can see everything's running pretty good. I could go high if I want and, see how things turn out, but I think this is fine. I'm just going to be making a little coke today for future use. I want to mention too that I do not advise running a forge like this close to the house. This is just a test run. In the future I'll be moving it to a different position. Right now there's a little problem in that there's been a snowstorm. I just had to clear a little spot so I could try it out. But like I said, I would not make a habit of this. I've been checking constantly to make sure the heat's not drifting towards the house. But doing this on a regular basis is a good way to burn down your house, so don't do that. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the videos. I could sit here and stare at this for a while, but you kind of get the picture at this point. So get out there and get building your own forge. Good luck.